Welcome everybody back to another prediction video. We've digested League 2. Now we're taking a look at Sky Bet League 1. Very difficult to judge this, especially with two or three of the sides that have coming down from the Championship. What position will Charlton and Wigan be in the next few weeks? But basing it on what they are now and the squad they've got and everything that looks like could be happening in the future, we're basing it off that. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on further videos throughout the season for football. And obviously the Championship one follows this. And also don't forget, smash that like button. That like button is your ticket to promotion next season. Hit that like button and your club will be at the top next season. So let's get into it. Who's going to be the first team? Who do we think are going to be heading to League 2 the season after this? Let's get to it then. Sky Bet League 1. And that first side is Northampton Town. Just got promoted, a massive day out at Wembley, a 4-0 win over Exeter City. But Keith Cowell's got a huge job to keep them in League 1 next season. Oliver's gone. Turnbull has joined the Revolution at Salford. Morton, who done so well at the end of his loan spell from West Brom, obviously is not there still at the moment. And, you know, he's back at West Brom. And got a solid signing in Mills from Forest Green, got some goals last season. And Misilu from Oldham was a bit of a bright spark in Oldham's side. Keith Cowell's obviously like the look of him, but one of the biggest dents in their side is Charlie Good. Gone to Brentford. Will they do anything with the money they got from him? I don't know. But as things stand at the moment, Northampton, I feel, will be crashing back down. And joining them, well, I've gone to AFC Wimbledon. Obviously, the big news for Wimbledon this season is obviously a chance to get back into their home and back to Wimbledon, got their own ground, and you know they'll try and make that feel as much as home as possible. But you know, Alexander's signing from Barnet. Palmer's got to make a step up from League 2 after his few. You know, he got a lot of goals for Crawley last season. A couple of loans in from the Championship. But squad-wise, I don't know if Wimbledon are that strong at the moment. And for me, they are another tip of my prediction to be heading to League 2. The next club I've gone for, 22nd place, is Rochdale. Normally I'm a big fan of Rochdale and I put them, you know, quite high in the lower half of the table. But this season I just can't see it. Wilbraham's gone. You know, you'd feel he probably could fill a bit of the void of Henderson with his goals leaving to join Salford. But them two gone. Camps has left. They've got Alex Newby, who needs to make a big step up. I just wonder where their goals are coming from, Rochdale, next season. And I feel like I'd worry if I was one of their supporters in what was happening this season. I feel like they could be heading back to League 2. They've had a great run in League 1. Will it continue? Not for me. And that fourth and final relegation place I've gone with Richie Wellens is Swindon Town. Another side like Northampton going up and feel like they probably could go down. They possibly could have enough in their squad to keep themselves up this year, and they do play some good football. And if you look at their front lines of last season, Owen Doyle, Jerry Yates, Keshi Anderson, they will all not be there this season, and that's massive for Swindon. They've got a lot of people need to fill boots straight away. Tyler Smith is in on loan from Sheffield United. Rochdale and then Bristol Rovers last season, he was on loan. They'll be hoping he can hit the ground running. Giassimi comes in from Norwich. A lot of people have been after him in the last couple of years, especially League 1 level. And Payne, for the experience, is coming from Lincoln. But for me, Swindon will, you know, they'll struggle a little bit for me personally. And they're definitely not one of the strongest teams that have come up. And for that reason, I feel they will fill that last relegation place. Just staying up, Accrington Stanley. John Coleman's got a big job this season. They've lost a lot of flair. And Zanzala's left. He's joined the Crewe push this season. Clark's moved up a level to go to Luton Town. They're two of their better players from last season and not much coming in. I don't think Accrington are going to be putting up any trees this season. And I feel like they will struggle. There's a good chance, you know, they'll be in a relegation scrap. And I feel they'd possibly just come out of it. I wouldn't be surprised if they were the other side of the dotted line. I think this is probably the hardest league season they will have since returning to League 1. So for me, 20th place, Accrington Stanley. Got challenged a little bit on Doncaster Rovers. saying they would have a mid-table transitional season, and it kind of turned out that way for Darren Moore's Doncaster. This year, I think they're going to be a little bit lower. I've got them down in 19th, and I think they will struggle a little bit this season. Not much activity, especially in the transfer market, of players coming through the door and out. Obviously, Ramsey and Ennis, who done so well last season, have left from their loan spells, and sadly has made a step up to the Championship, one of their top scorers from last season. And they brought in Bursick on loan from Stoke, the goalkeeper. But for me, Doncaster have got a long, hard season ahead, and Darren Moore will have to keep his head above water to get them out of this one. And I feel like Doncaster will have a bit of a struggle next year. Above Doncaster, I've gone for Shrewsbury Town, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were a little bit lower as well. Only Bolton scored less goals than them last season, only 31 goals. Very, very short. They've lost Laurent to Reading, one of their bright sparks from last season. I mean, mostly from his FA Cup spells. And obviously no more towering figure of Omar Beckles in their back four. Brought in 2 players from Huddersfield. Pike will certainly be looking for some games and some game time to continue and try and get some goals for them next season. But for me, Shrewsbury, one of those sides which, you can't really judge that well. I think Ricky's done quite well with them last season in what he had at his disposal. But goals are missing, and I just don't see them getting many more than they did last year at the moment. 17th, I've gone Burton Albion. They brought in some experienced players. Boswick, Luke Varney's come in on a player coaching role. Hemmings and right back Erdley, which is some good experience. But I feel Burton, they were kind of going through the motions a little bit last season. You got a bit of freshening up in that squad. But I don't see Burton challenging at the top end. And I feel 17th would be about in and around the place they'll be next season. Above them, 16th place, Lincoln City. Michael Appleton's men have got a lot of ins and outs in the summer, and they're going to have to find togetherness pretty quickly to do anything this season. Players like Liam Bridcut that they've brought in, if they can get him back to the form he used to show, anything's possible for Lincoln this season. But I find that quite a hard challenge for Appleton to be able to get that. He's a good manager. He plays the right way. But I feel that Lincoln will be struggling and potentially have a little bit of a scrap of a relegation battle in that at the moment of speaking. But, they've got enough in that squad to get out of that relegation battle. So lower mid-table for the Imps. Another of the newly promoted sides next, and we've gone Crewe Alexandra in 15th place. Don't think Crewe will be the top side of the teams that are coming up, but I feel they've probably got enough to stay up. Zanzala's a very good signing, one from Accrington Stanley, and they play some good stuff, and they've got some real top young boys in there. Charlie Kirk especially, I feel like he'd make a good step up, and, he'll potentially look for higher amount of double-digit goals next season. But Crewe's squad looks pretty strong, and they definitely got enough to stay out in this division, and they've done exceptionally well to get there. So 15th for the Alex. The next one might surprise you, but hear me out. In 14th place, I've got Wigan Athletic, relegated from the Championship last season. Lost their manager, Paul Cook. One of their top coaches has left the club to potentially go into the Premier League. On top of that, they've lost Balogun, Kiefer Moore, Gelhart, Dunkley, Robinson, Williams. There's a fear they may lose a few more, including Jamal Lowe, who is obviously still there at the moment. And Sam Morsey and Gavin Massey are there, some big names for them in League One. But, the amount that Wigan have gone through, the potential of losing more players, you look at the squad, that's what's left. 1 defeat in their last 15 matches last season. How demoralising will that be for the players that are left to try and pick themselves up to get back on how the EFL, for me, have damaged them personally. It shouldn't have gone down, shouldn't have been in that position. There's talk of still being in minus points this season. So with that all in consideration, I think, Wigan, the best they can hope for is one, staying in that division and consolidating a little bit, and potentially build to, try and improve the year after for a promotion push. Don't think that's going to be next season for them. 14th place, Wigan Athletic. Making up the bottom half is the side I went for as last season's dark horses to be in the playoffs, and that's Bristol Rovers. And to be honest with you, I think Bristol Rovers could have probably had a playoff push if the manager hadn't left halfway through the season, and it kind of turned everything on its head, and such a poor form led them down to the bottom half in the end. I think mid-table for Bristol Rovers this season. Made a strong signing at the back in Aimer. Baldwin, hit and miss. He didn't really settle at Sunderland and has looked very shaky for the last couple of years. But, you know, heavy reliant on that man, Johnson Clark-Harris. It's enough for Bristol Rovers to not struggle, but also probably not challenge next season as well. One big player coming from non-league, Jonah Ayunga. Saw him play a few times last season, a very strong striker, and there's no reason why he can't make a step up into League One. I feel that he's probably strong enough to fit into the mould of how Bristol Rovers play. Him and Clark Harris have definitely got goals in them, but mid-table, and that is the bottom half completed. Let me know what you think down below in the comments about who you think should be in the bottom half that I haven't included yet, and who you think I'm barking mad and think, how the hell are they in the bottom half? But let's move on to the top half. Who's the first side we've got in 12th place? That side is Steve Evans' Gillingham. Don't see them being in any danger this season. I think Evans is building a pretty strong team at Gillingham. Lots of players have come into Priestfield this summer. Oliver and Mellis have come in, that bit of experience from Mellis. Jackson returns from Colchester City. And two little young players coming in from Arsenal, Medley and Coyne, to bolster their defence and midfield respectively. They will look to make a mark in League One. I do worry about the lack of goals Gillingham have got at the top end, but they've got enough strength and definitely ability to be mid-table, and you know, the potential to have a little sniff at the playoffs, but 12th place I've gone for Gillingham this season. So in 11th, I've got Ipswich Town. Paul Lambert had a job last season to ensure they got straight back to the Championship. And while they started quite brightly, they fell very, very quickly. Very poor form after Christmas. Only one win in 9 before the corona hit. And you know what? They're going to need to start fast to change anyone's opinion about them this season. Experience coming in, Ward. Ollie Hawkins comes in. He was at Portsmouth last season. Didn't play many games last year, but he can link up, especially with the likes of Norwood and Jackson. They've got plenty of goals in them. And that's the kind of vocal figure they probably need up front, that bit of strength. But I don't see Ipswich doing any more than mid-table. And as I said, you know, if they can win 3 or 4 of their first 4 or 5 games, then, you know, they could have that bit of momentum. But mid-table for Ipswich next season. My overachievers for this season are coming next. 10th place, I've gone MK Dons. I think Russell Martin has installed a real positive play of football last season. And watching MK Dons, you know, they play from the back. They're very brave, sometimes a bit naive with their passing. They'll probably get caught a few times next season. But they play such a good type of football, and Russell Martin's building a very good squad together. Yes, they've lost Alex Gilby to a League One rival, and that's a big, big blow for them in the midfield. Morris has come back, though. Thompson's back. The big news of Richard Keogh coming in the centre half is massive. He can still do definitely a good job in League One if they can keep him fit. Anything else is possible for MK Dons. There's no reason, I don't find, me personally, that they can't have a little sniff of the playoffs and try and play out there with the big boys. For MK Dons, for me, are going to be a bit of a dark horse next season. I see them doing quite well next year. I've gone 10th place for the MK. Next side I've gone for in 9th place, Blackpool. A lot of people are predicting them to be quite high next season, Blackpool. I think 9th is about as high as what they will be. At the same time, they do have a very good-looking squad. You know, they've got rid of a lot of their dead wood from previous years. Keshy Anderson comes in from Swindon, linked very well. Yates from Rotherham. You know, and that they're very good players. Ekpatita from Leyton Orient at centre-half is a solid signing. And CJ Hamilton, a lot of talk about him last season playing, you know, too high of his level. So maybe League One he'll fit into right away. They lost Nandule up front, who for me is their goal source. So they're going to need to find someone to fill his boots quickly. But Blackpool have got enough in them. There's no reason why they can't have a playoff push. They've got a good-looking squad. And I think 9th place, Blackpool will own next season. In 8th, last season's League Two side, Plymouth Argyle. One reason why I'm doing this is Ryan Lowe plays such good style. You know, I talked about just now Russell Martin playing the right way. Crewe play a decent brand of football. Plymouth Argyle and Ryan Lowe, very impressed with him when he was at Bury, and he's continued that at Plymouth. Fans were a little bit sceptical of him at start, and they had a bit of a slow start, but by the end of the season, they were really kicking on all cylinders. And I think, you know, Plymouth will take that into this season. Camera comes in, real bright signing from Crawley. Really, you know, really good holding midfielder in there. McLeod from Wigan comes in. Hardy's returned. Frank Noble from Colchester. Hardy, you know, the fans took to him very well last season. Seems to fit in the way Lowe plays. The football's fantastic, and also a little bit of interest in Luke Jeffcott, young, very hungry, 7 in 14 last season for him. You know, will he play any more part in a league above at the moment? So for me, Plymouth 8th place, and there's no reason why they can't be any higher than that. It depends how all the other big boys get on after all this financial hitting of the wage cut and everything, and the budgets and the wage structure. You know, they can take advantage of the big teams been cutting a little bit of their wage bill. So, yeah, I think Plymouth will do pretty well like next season. 8th for the Pilgrims. So the next side and the one team to finish just outside the playoffs, and we're going to take a little trip along the south coast from the previous side, and we end up at Portsmouth. You know, not a lot's going on this summer at Fratton Park in the transfer window. They've got a bit of a gap at the back. Burgess has missed out. Downing didn't get much of a favour last season, so you'd have to feel, you know, they're down to 2 unless he fancies Downing a little bit more now. Raggett comes in as a permanent signing after his loan spell from Norwich last year. The squad looks very thin. You know, there's goals in Marquis and Curtis, and they definitely have that ability. But without, you know, too much going on, a bit of disgruntledness in the terraces. Jackett's had 3 years to get Pompey out of this league, and while, you know, there's no reason for me that they won't be near the top half or challenging that playoff place, I don't think they're going to be near the promotional picture for the top 2 unless they can bring in 2 or 3 decent players towards the end of the window. But as things stand at the moment, Pompey, for me, just missing out on the playoffs. Into the playoffs we go then. The first team inside the playoffs, and 6th place is Joey Barton's Fleetwood Town. Done very well last season, and you've got to say Joey's got them playing some very, very attractive style of football. Yes, they've lost first teamer Coyle. Possibly Harry Suter could be moving on as well, but Camps is such a good signing from Rochdale. There's a few clubs looking at him. They play some real good stuff, and they are not scared. As you can imagine, they'll run through brick walls for someone who will fight for them as well in the press and on the training pitch and everything. Joey Barton's got good mentality installed, and they'll be out to prove the wrongs from last season where they got annihilated in that first leg to Wycombe, which kind of ended their playoff journey. I think Fleetwood will learn from that. I think Barton will get his players back rejuvenated again, and I think they'll be back in the playoffs for another fight this season. Fleetwood Town taking the first playoff place. Next, we're side Sunderland in 5th. I think Parkinson's experience means that, you know, and his way, he kind of turned the tide a little bit last season, and they had that good run of form. Yes, they missed out on the playoffs, you know, with the season being cut, but you know, I feel like they probably would have been top 6. But 5th place, I think, next season for Sunderland. I don't think their squad warrants them being in the top 2 at the moment. O'Brien's a cracking signing from Millwall. That is really, you know, gone under the radar, I think, this season for signings of their season so far. But they lost a lot of their deadwood they had last year. Baldwin, Ozturk, Lynch, Robson all moving on. And you know what, Sunderland will probably still bring 1 or 2 in, but the squad, the way it looks at the moment, I think it looks pretty strong, and Parkinson knows which players he will want this year. It's his first, you know, a real look at it after a year of weighing it up. I think Sunderland will be in the playoffs next season, possibly a bit too far of a stretch to be top 2. Up next, Charlton Athletic in 4th. Like Wigan, I'm not sure what position they're going to be come, you know, throughout the season in such financial turmoil, but it looks like it looked tied a little bit in the boardroom. They got a few irons in the fire, but They've still made a couple of big signings in the summer, even though they have that financial problem. Alex Gilby comes in from MK Dons, and he was their shining light last season. Connor Washington, if that pays off and he works, then there's goals in him, but hasn't really proved it since moving up from Peterborough a few years ago. Massive voids in their squad. Lyle Taylor, obviously, for me, was the reason why they went down. If he was there, if he played, which I felt he should have, I think Charlton would have probably survived last season. And Sarr at the back is a massive miss for them. But you look at their squad and there's still enough there, and they are definitely playoff ready. Macaulay Bonne, I think, will have a big season next year, and he could be well up there on the top goal scoring lark. And then you've got Anike Oztuma still there. Pearce at the back. They've still got plenty, and the big reason I've got them still in the playoffs is that man pictured there, Lee Bowyer, really rejuvenates his squad, gets them firing like Burton does at Fleetwood. And Bowyer is the reason why they got promoted 2 years ago. And I feel like he's the reason why they'll be challenging again this season. So in fourth place, I've gone for the Valley outfit, Charlton. As I'm sure you're aware, there are 3 teams left. So who's going to be the final playoff team? I've gone Peterborough United. Last year I tipped them to win the league and they didn't even make the playoffs. I feel they probably would have done if the season had finished the right way before the virus hit. And I've put them so high at the moment because at the moment they're still featuring up front. Ivan Toney is still there. Will he still be there at the start of the season? Potentially, will he be there at the end of the transfer window in October? Probably not. But at the moment, he's still there. And if he does go, they'll probably spend the money on a real top player to come in and replace him. It's what Peterborough do. They generate, these players through the leagues and they always have a backup plan. And if not, Mo Iser's got enough in his locker to come in and do it. Slowed off at the end of the time last season, but started off on fire. 7 wins in their last 9 games. It's the kind of form Peterborough can put together. Reece Brown has returned from Huddersfield. And, with Tony still being there, if they do lose him, and obviously Smodics, who carried them a little bit last season as well with his brilliant performances, that is 2 massive misses. But I still fancy Peterborough to be inside the playoffs. Their squad is very, very strong for this level at least. So third place, I've gone Peterborough United. So the first side I've gone to get promoted automatically is Oxford United. I've got them in second. They've managed to get a permanent deal out of Matty Taylor, which is key for them, and Carl Robinson. While watching the playoffs last season, it didn't look like Oxford or Portsmouth wanted to get promoted. They're both very lacklustre and kind of carried into the final a little bit for Oxford. Wickham, while they battered Wickham statistically, didn't look like it was ever going to come off. But I think Carl Robinson's got that hunger at Oxford, and I think he really wanted that extra year of pushing that squad together again. Sean Clare comes in from Hearts, which could be a bit of a coup. And if James Henry stays in the form he has been for the last year or two, that's scintillating stuff of him and Taylor ups up. They've kept most of the squad. Only Jamie Mackey probably wouldn't be there because obviously he has now retired. But Oxford United, their squad looks strong. And for me, they are going to be one of the top 2. So that leaves one side. And champions, I've gone for Hull City. And I feel they, on paper, look stronger than any of the 3 teams that have come down, especially with Wigan's players that have gone out already. Will McCann have time with the fans on him already? Will the board give him that time to kind of push Hull City? We've seen a lot of teams that have had a really poor season the year before. Your Rotherhams, Blackburn, Wigan, and have bounced back in the last few years straight away and looked like they've blown League One out of the water. They've got to find that right balance, and they've kept a massive player for me, Malik Wilkes, superb when he was in League One a couple of years ago, and they've also got big names for this league. Tom Eaves, McGuinness and Irvine have done it in this league before, and they'll be massive as their plans for this season. The signing for me, which is really settled my mind on Hull being one of the top 2, is Doherty from Rangers. It was brilliant at Shrewsbury a couple of years ago. Very surprised Gerrard has let him go. But Hull have brought him in. And like I say, they find that balance, they find that squad, getting a rhythm. And Hull City will be very hard to stop next season. They've definitely got a very strong championship side, especially with defence being very strong, let alone for League One. So for me, champions of League One next season is Hull City. So that rounds up League One. There is the top half on your screen now. And this is my final table for this season. So come on then, chuck in your comments. Who do you think I've gone too overboard with? Who do you think I've put too low? And you know what? You think they're going to be near the top. Who do you think are going to be top 2 in League One? Who do you think are going to get relegated from this division? Let me know down below. And don't forget, hit that like button, because that will bring luck to your team for next season. Good luck with it all. Stay tuned for some more prediction leagues and further updates throughout the season. This has been League One, and these are the predictions that we have gone for. Good luck for this season, and bring back the footy.